Hello, everyone, and good morning. Welcome to our live feed update for August 12th. I'm your host, Taran Armstrong, and I'm here today to update you on everything that happened yesterday on the Big Brother 26 live feeds. It was day 27 in the house, and I am here today on my own to give you the rundown of what's going down in the house. Of course, you know that Angela won the HOH, but Quinn is the real HOH. Quinn nominated Cedric, MJ, and Tucker for eviction. Tucker then won the veto, but then he started talking some nonsense about using the veto on MJ. But then he was saying that that was just a ploy to see where it goes, and who really knows what's happening at this point. So that is kind of the primary topic of the day is what's going to happen with the veto. Is Tucker actually going to use it on himself? Is he going to use it on MJ? Is he going to not use it? We don't really know. So that's what we're going to talk through here today. And of course, if you have any questions, if you're watching along live, feel free to ask them maybe toward the end. We'll maybe do a little bit of a Q&A session here as I am on my own. Okay, let's get into it. The morning was full of discussion surrounding Rubina going up on the block. Basically, Quinn has already told a lot of people that he plans to put Rubina on the block if he needs a replacement nominee. T-Core and Chemo don't like this, but they haven't exactly given him any alternative, told him about Leah, really talked to him at all about any of it beyond just listening to him say, I think it has to be Rubina, which is kind of wild, but it is what it is. Quinn tells Joseph about it. He talks to Joseph about what they should say or what he should say to Rubina about the situation. They also discuss who should leave between Rubina and MJ if Rubina goes on the block. And of course, this is an important discussion that will likely be had throughout the week, assuming that Tucker uses the veto on himself and Rubina goes up as the replacement. Then the question becomes, if Cedric wins that AI arena competition, which of MJ or Rubina should leave? Now, there was already a lot of talk about how taking Rubina out makes some sense. However, there's been more talk about MJ, and as of right now, that is still where things stand. Even Quinn and Joseph were saying MJ should probably leave between MJ and Rubina. MJ is really athletic. She's somebody that could be dangerous in the game later on, and so it makes sense to just take out MJ. She was campaigning for Tucker to stay to Quinn last week. So, also was campaigning for Quinn to leave for what it's worth. But so that's where things currently stand there. I do still think that there will be discussion around this because the fact that Rubina is locked in with Tucker, whereas MJ is not, you know, should make a difference. And if MJ is able to recognize the strength of her position in that sense and distance herself from Tucker in a way that Rubina will not be able to, I do really think that there's a way that something could work there, although it's maybe asking a lot of MJ, given what we've seen so far. So, Joseph, also, T-Core joins the conversation. Joseph does this. It's kind of wild to me. Joseph and Quinn start talking about challenges, competitions, different hacks, talking about like the wall, like will we be able to squat a little bit? They talk about how Taylor won on the slime with the slime thing. And then Joseph is just like, "Oh, do you guys know about the double eviction thing? Oh, I only want to tell you guys because I want you guys to have this, but like this is how if you the double eviction one where you run back and forth, you have to find the things. You find all the things first and then you run back and just grab them. And he lets T-Core didn't know about this, so he's letting her know. And it's just like, what What's the point of having a compact if you just tell everyone about the compact? You you don't know when this comp is gonna come up. You don't know you're not gonna know if you're gonna need to beat T-Core in this. Could you imagine? Could you imagine? Could you imagine? 5 weeks from now, double eviction. Joseph is fighting for his life, and T-Core beats him in the double eviction veto because he told her about the compact. Like, I just don't understand these people. They just say the things. They just say the things. Just keep it to yourself. Just you don't need to say everything. You can just okay. Um, I did like after T-Core leaves, Joseph and Quinn, they were putting some respect on Steve Moses' name. He was good. He did a good job. Um, Quinn talks to Rubina after a while, and finally lets her know officially, yeah, you're gonna be going up on the block if Tucker comes down. Really, if anyone comes down. Um, He says, "You're not the target. MJ is. We will be sending MJ home in the event that this happens. I'm sorry, but basically, I like, I hope that you win it. Like, I don't want you to leave. But it's what I have to do." And she says she understands that basically the obvious reason is that she has this proximity to Tucker, and so he's like, yeah, it just doesn't. I don't have a reason to put anybody else up. There's no obvious reason like there is with you. And the thing is too, the unfortunate thing is that I want to work with Tucker. I wanted to work with Tucker. I wanted to make our thing that we were talking about happen, but he just came at me for no reason, and now we're locked in this position, and I'm sorry. Um, so Rubina obviously not very pleased about this, and she lets T-Core, Brooklyn, and Chemo know. She says it's her fault. She did this to herself because of the proximity to Tucker. But she later tells she's like hyping herself up to the camera. She says, "Hey, if Taylor can survive being on the block, I can do it too." And Rubina's trying to like get ready to face this thing, and it's still just like even if it's locked with MJ being the target over Rubina, there's still a significant danger. If MJ wins the AI arena competition, it is widely accepted that Rubina's leaving. That's just it. Um, and like even T-Core and Chemo have basically given up on the idea of flipping the vote against Cedric. Now, there are a few days still to go. So again, who knows what may happen there? There may be more movement in that direction, but it's not looking great. And I'm still just wondering how in the world Leah has gotten away with it after all of the trash she talked about Quinn last week and this week. And Quinn still doesn't know any of it. And there are all these people that would love to not see Rubina on the block. And nobody cares about Leah being on the no, everybody would be fine with Leah being on the block. And yet nothing. Nothing. No discussion. It's wild. Um so anyway, this may not even be relevant because Tucker is going to talk to Chemo because uh Chemo learns about the Rubina thing. He runs and tells Tucker. He said, "Hey, Quinn is gonna Quinn told Rubina that he's putting her on the block." Um, and Tucker's like, "Oh man, well, here's the thing. I was thinking, what if I use the veto on MJ and then I can take out Cedric?" Now, I want to say this. I feel like we just talked about this, that the way to convince Tucker to not use the veto on himself is to convince him that he should face off against Cedric in the AI arena competition. I still think that's the case, and I think that yesterday very much proved that because he came up with that exact idea on his own, and in fact, I think that the Rubina angle, if anything, is convincing him to use the veto on himself so that Rubina goes up, not the other way around. I don't think that Tucker wants to be chivalrous and save Rubina. I think he wants to be um like manly and face down Cedric and be the guy that takes him out. Um so he says this to Chemo, and he's actually serious about it at this point. Um, and Chemo's like, ah. Tucker says, I was thinking of telling MJ to pick a number between like 1 and 3. And if she picks the right number, I'll use it on her. Hey, right? That's kind of fun, right? And Chemo's like, ah. Angela and T-Core join this conversation, and he kind of pitches the same thing to them. He says, I think Cedric is the top target. I think that everyone wants Cedric out. And so the only thing to do is to beat him in the AI arena competition. Tucker genuinely thinks that if Cedric is on the block, he will go home. We know that it's basically the opposite at this time, that if Cedric is on the block, whoever sits next to him goes home. And so Tucker's misinterpretation of this misconception here. Tucker's idea that Cedric just needs to be on the block is partially what is encouraging him to try to face off against him in the AI arena competition to ensure that he stays on the block. If he knew that Cedric was guaranteed safe, he probably wouldn't care as much to keep Cedric on the block because he's still not leaving. So he pitches this to Angela, and T-Core and Chemo. But Angela is like, no, 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 Tucker, no. He's like, I did it last week. It saved you. She's like, yeah, but not this time. Please, please, please don't do that. Tucker, don't do that. Please, Tucker, please don't do that. Tucker, don't do that. I'm not even exaggerating. That's about as many times as she said it. And Angela's bluntness here, it seems to have an impact on Tucker. He's like, well, we'll see. Listen, I'm not planning to. It's just an idea. And so it seems as though Angela may have talked him down a little bit. He's maybe now thinking, okay, all right. Angela really thinks this is stupid. Maybe is it stupid? I don't want to be stupid. So Tucker leaves. Angela starts telling T-Core and Chemo all about her game conspiracies, which is very funny because she hasn't had anybody to talk to. Like T-Core and Chemo just like ended up in a room with Angela, and Angela's like, "Oh, great, people to talk to. Hey, guys, guess what? There's a girls' alliance. There's a guys' alliance. I know about everything. I've been overhearing conversations. I overheard Quinn and Joseph talking strategy." They were like, "Wait, what did they say?" She's like, strategy. Uh, just, classic, classic Angela stuff. There's more confirmation between Quinn and Brooklyn, even talking about like who they would vote out between MJ and Rubina. Still MJ right now. If MJ wins, it is what it is, and Rubina goes home. But right now, MJ is the target. But Quinn is still hopeful that there's a chance that Tucker may not use the veto on himself. So Quinn has his conversation with Tucker. He says, listen, you're probably the first Big Brother player ever where I need to ask you if you're actually going to use the veto on yourself. So what do you plan to do with the veto? And this is where again, like I feel like Tucker's feeling a little challenged, and he's like, well, listen, I don't know. I mean, I kind of feel like I want to finish what I started and take Cedric out and keep him on the block. And Quinn is like, really? You think you could do that? He's like, oh yeah. I mean, come on. It's yeah. I mean, I gotta keep Cedric on the block. I don't know. I'm thinking about it. After Quinn leaves this conversation, Tucker's like, I hate his fake ass. And because Cam is right there. He's like, "Hey, Cam, I can't. Why are you working with that guy? I know you're working with him and Leah." And Cam's like, "What are you talking about? I'm not working with Quinn and Leah." And he's like, "Come on, Cam, you should be on my side. You should join my side. I guess because they're both bros." Um, and so Cam is like, uh, so Quinn starts going around. He's like, "Guys, I think Tucker might actually not use the veto." And they're celebrating. They're like, "Oh my god, I can't believe this is even a possibility. This is wild. This would be so good. We'll have another chance to maybe take Tucker out." Um, and Tucker goes to Rubina, and he says, "Listen, do you, would you rather me not use it so that you don't go up? Like, how are you feeling?" And Rubina is basically like, "Listen, you should do whatever you want. I don't want to like ask you to not use the veto. You won the thing. You should do whatever you want. We can talk more later, but I like basically the typical response um that you'd normally see honestly in Big Brother. It's this very much like, well, obviously she wants it, but she doesn't want to ask for it because that feels gross, right? So she gives that response, and they talk a little bit more too. He's like, I can't stand Quinn. You know what? I can't wait to. What I want to do is I want to win the HOH next week, and I want to put Quinn up on the block with his love Leah, who doesn't even give a about him. But it'll be so good to see them on the block together. Um, and so after he leaves, Brooklyn comes up to Rubina and she's like, Rubina, if Tucker's willing to stay on the block, why not let him? Like, what are you doing? Like, you should, like, I mean, I don't know. I just feel like, why not let him do it? Um, so Rubina, I think after that is kind of like, oh, okay, maybe you might be a little bit right. So Tikor and Chemo are going to talk a bit more after their whole Angela conversation. Uh, they, of course, still don't want Rubina to go on the block. Of course they don't. Why would they want Rubina on the block? So, of course, they should talk to Quinn about it, maybe. I don't know. Maybe. Just an idea. Just a thought. Um, they recognize that if she's up against Cedric, she goes home. That's not a good place to be. Again, if MJ wins that AI arena, that's that's rough. T-Cord talks about Joseph and being kind of frustrated with him. I guess him telling her the double eviction hack didn't really get him many points. Part of this, I think, is the fact that he was actually arguing the other side of things yesterday. Not sure why he did that, but he was pushing for Rubina to leave over MJ initially. He has now flipped to the other side of things, but I think that there was still some leftover frustration from there. Plus, just the general fact that Joseph's social game occasionally leaves some things to be desired. Um, so she's also though frustrated with Quinn. He keeps wanting to protect Leah. This guy, like, if he's choosing, like, they can't believe that Quinn is choosing to nominate Rubina over Leah. And if he's going to prioritize Leah over Rubina, then they don't know if they can work with him. They might need to drop Quinn. And it's just like, God, how is he supposed to drop Leah if you haven't told him about any of the Leah things? I don't know how many times I can say it on the update, but like, why would, if he doesn't know that Leah doesn't like him, why in the world would he prioritize Rubina, who is with Tucker, who hates his guts, over Leah, who he thinks doesn't hate his guts? But it turns out Leah does actually hate his guts, and you know that. You know that, and you haven't told him that. Yeah. They're like, well, if we if we drop Quinn, maybe we do need to work with Tucker, but we need to have a serious conversation with Tucker where we're like really actually talking to Tucker, and get him like, you know, on the right path. So, uh, basically, it's more of the same here for the most part with T-Core and Chemo. Now, there was some more update talk. Quinn was explaining to Chelsea that he can't wait to watch the updates when he gets home. She's like, "What are the updates?" It's like, "Oh, on YouTube." He says, "It's this guy Taran."
His name's Taran. He rock climbs, so I'm hoping.
Oh,
that,
you're a rock climber.
I'm hoping that we're boys after this.
I can't.
Probably not. I much like Joseph, I can tell I would be the kind of person to get under his skin.
Yeah,
like,
yep.
Which is disappointing because I watch his videos like every day, but yeah, he just like watches.
Listen, I just watch. It's listen, I know we like to poke fun, but obviously, like, I think there's some controversy, I think on Twitter about this that that the people are being a little harsh on Quinn for just being a fan. I want to make it clear, like, I will tell you, Quinn's gameplay getting under my skin a little bit. Listen, I don't know what you're doing in there sometimes, dude. But hey, anybody who wants to climb with me, I'm down. that's an easy way into my heart. Listen, we'll see. We'll see. Okay. So, Tucker talks to Rubina again. And this was during the episode, which was delayed. I'm sure you guys watched it, and then also, can I tell you how tired I was last night during the podcast? I was so tired. But during the episode, there was a conversation between Tucker and Rubina, and he was like, "Listen, I'm still kind of unsure what I want to do with veto." And this time around, Rubina was definitely a lot more like pushing in the direction of like, I mean, it would be kind of cool, right? Be kind of a good like resume move, like the viewers would love it. And he was talking about like, yeah, I'd get more airtime. I'd be more legendary. I'd be breaking more records. Like he's like hyping himself up about how like cool it would be. Um, and she's playing into this, like, oh yeah, would be really cool if you kept me safe and didn't use the veto. So it's really like it's starting to feel like and sound like he's into this. Like he's talking himself into this. And he says the only thing is, Angela doesn't want me to. So I'm going to need to like tell her that about this first, but then I'm kind of feeling it basically. He's kind of feeling like maybe he really isn't going to use the veto. And it seems at this point that he's off of the plan to use the veto on MJ, and the plan would actually be to just not use the veto at all. And then if he does that, Rubina stays off the block. Him and MJ fight against Cedric in the AI arena competition, and then he wins. MJ versus Cedric. They send Cedric home. That's sort of, I think, how he feels it would go. So, but he needs to talk to Angela first. So he talks to Angela. And he says, "Hey, Angela," and he lets her know what he's thinking again. And she says again, "No, Tucker, please do not stay on the block. You cannot do that. The house will vote you out." Um, he's like, I mean, they were gonna vote me out last week. That is true." And she's like, "I'm telling you, Rubina is playing you. Quinn told Rubina to try to convince you to to keep yourself on the block. She's playing on your heartstrings. You can't trust her. Like this, it's all a ploy to keep you on the block so that they can vote you out. Tucker, use the veto on yourself." Um, and it works. It kind of seems to work a little bit. To me, I felt like, and I could be wrong, but I felt like this is the argument that really swayed Tucker. This idea, because again, if Tucker's going to not use the veto on himself, the narrative in his head needs to be, I'm the big manly man who's going to go down and fight Cedric. And it's this really cool manly man move that I'm going to go beat Cedric. But Angela shifted the perception, I think, in his head to, oh, you're being played by Rubina. This is a ploy to trick you into doing a thing by Rubina. So now it's not the big manly man move. It's the I got tricked by a girl move kind of thing. And the possibility of that, I think, really took down the enthusiasm levels. That is my theory based on the series of events that occurred yesterday. Tucker is such a wild card. Who really knows? But this seems to be the moment where he really started to walk down the move and said, "Yeah, you know what? Maybe I will be using it on myself. Maybe I will be doing that." So he says, "Listen, here, and I don't really even care about anything else. I just want to win this game to break that first in curse." Wants to break the first in curse. That is his goal. That is his mission. And Angela has set him back on track for now. So, in the meantime, Quinn talks to Chemo. He spills more of his game, talks about Joseph, talks about various relationships in the house, really giving Chemo even more. They talk a bit about the power situation. Now, I think it's important to maybe set you up here. Obviously, there was a lot of speculation about how will Quinn feel when he finds out that Chemo spilled about his power to Tucker, and nothing really seemed to come of it, despite the fact that they are like sort of more separate than they were before, but it's not because Quinn is upset with Chemo. If anything, Quinn feels like it was more his fault than Chemo's fault. And I think this is mostly because, from Quinn's perspective, it was Angela knowing that really spilled the beans. Quinn doesn't quite realize that he was free and clear until Chemo confirmed it to Tucker. Um, and I think this is why he doesn't blame Chemo for the situation. I think in Quinn's mind, uh, Tucker came to Chemo saying, like, Angela told me Quinn has the power, and kind of basically believing it. And then Chemo just kind of like broke in the moment, and because Tucker already knew, as opposed to the actual situation where Tucker was like, obviously Quinn well, that actually, to be fair, that is kind of what happened. Tucker was a bit like, "Hey, Angela said this," and Chemo didn't know, I think, entirely that Tucker didn't believe it, because Tucker wasn't saying it like, "Oh, it's definitely fake." But basically, what I'm saying is that, um, I don't think Quinn realizes that Chemo really just like volunteered that information in a way that if he hadn't, Quinn would not be in this position at all. So Quinn doesn't really seem to blame Chemo for any of it. And still really wants to work with Chemo and T-Core. He tells them that, or he tells Chemo that they, they are who he prioritizes the most. He ends up talking more with T-Core as well. Um, And he tells them, listen, this is like, I want to play this game. And this was my plan before the Tucker thing, and it is my plan after Tucker leaves. Once Tucker is gone, once I don't have to deal with Tucker, we can get back to our originally planned, plan. And I want to flip on the collective. I want to flip on them. I want to turn this whole house upside down. I want to disrupt this power structure. I want to get rid of the collective. I want to get rid of the Pentagon. I want to do these things. It's just Tucker is in the way right now. And I can't do them while Tucker is here. And so he says, this is what I want to do. And I don't know exactly how T-Core and Chemo will feel about this. My guess is that they will go, oh, well, that's interesting. Maybe we should talk about it with him some more. But here's the deal. I can't, like, it's hard to fault Quinn for this. Like, I agree. There's no shot he should turn on Collective or Pentagon while Tucker is still in the game. That's just giving the game to Tucker, who hates his guts and wants him gone, right? Like, he has to use his structure to take out Tucker. Then he can turn on the structure. He wanted to play with Tucker to take out the structure, but, it's Tucker. So he lets them know that, but we'll see how they really feel about it. Tucker, right off of his conversation from Angela, where she said, hey, Rubina's playing you, is going to go back to Rubina and say, hey, you know what? I've been thinking some more, and I'm going to use the veto on myself. That's going to be the plan. And also, we should probably, like, cool things off a little bit between the two of them. I don't want to put more of a target on our backs. So, we should probably, like, just cool it off a little bit, separate a little bit. And I'll be using the veto on myself, and you'll be fine. You'll be fine on the block. It'll be all right. So that seems to be where things stand for Tucker after a whole day of, like, back and forth. Will he use it on MJ? Will he use it on himself? Will he not use it? Spinning around. It seems as though we've landed on Tucker will use the veto on himself. Unless he changes his mind this morning. But that's where we currently stand. He does talk later in the night with 5 points. If you don't remember, 5 points is the alliance that was made at the start of this week. It's Tucker, Chemo, T-Core, Rubina, and Brooklyn. Brooklyn did a very good job of getting herself included in this alliance. Something that Brooklyn does well is that she's very quick to be like, let's get this group together. Let's do this. What's the group? And then gets people to name the group, and then she's in the group, and then she just rats the group out. But 5 points comes together, and they have a meeting. Brooklyn is not in the meeting, so it's 5 points minus. It's 4 points. It's a 4 points meeting. It's Tucker, Chemo, T-Core, and Rubina. So they go over votes, and it's honestly, I would say, like, 90% Tucker talking. Tucker is going to go over his complaints about people. He's frustrated with Cam because Cam won't work with him. He's frustrated with Quinn because he's a snake. He's frustrated with, Cedric, because Cedric's got to go, and so on and so forth. He says he thinks they can work with Angela, but he won't tell her about 5 points. He says that Angela is totally down to work with them. He promises he won't tell her about 5 points, but he does think that Angela is a good number for them. He also asks, he's like, so Brooklyn's not here. Brooklyn's not in this meeting. How do we feel about Brooklyn? How do we feel about Brooklyn? Basically, Rubina, T-Core, and Chemo all jump to her defense. Brooklyn is totally fine. She is definitely with us. You do not need to worry about Brooklyn. And he says, I just Angela was saying a lot of things about Brooklyn. Tucker says. She's just like saying all kinds of stuff. And Kimo's like, oh, yeah, that's just Angela. She hasn't liked Brooklyn from the start. She sees Brooklyn as like her mom competition or something. It's weird. And Tucker's like, like they're competing grandmas, and they're like, don't call Brooklyn a grandma. And he's like, oh, okay. But they're like, okay, but that's like, you can't trust anything Angela says about Brooklyn. She just has it in for Brooklyn. And he's like, okay, that makes me feel a lot better. I'm definitely down with Brooklyn. I would never target Brooklyn until we come down to the 5 of us anyway. So don't worry about it. And it's like, man, you were close there. Like, listen, broken clock is right, I guess, twice a day sometimes, unless it has an AM PM specifier, and in which case maybe only once a day. But in this case, Angela's right, just for the wrong reasons. They shouldn't trust Brooklyn. So that was their 5 points meeting. Later in the night, T-Core talks to Cedric. They occasionally have these late night conversations, bonding sessions. I really do feel like if the two of them stick around late enough in the game, I think there's something that could happen here strategically. But they just talk some more about, wanting Tucker out and all that stuff. And that was basically the day. I think that's roughly how we went. Looking toward tomorrow, Tucker seems to be taking himself off the block. If he does so, Rubina goes up. The current target is MJ. If she doesn't win the AI Arena competition, if she does, Rubina will leave. The biggest question then is, will we get some interesting stuff with power dynamics between the collective and T-Core and Chemo and 5 points, essentially? Because obviously there's going to be a desire to protect Rubina. So will there be a push to flip the vote onto Rubina to keep MJ? If MJ mounts a successful campaign to say, hey, if you really want to take shots at Tucker, you should be taking out Rubina, not me, because I'm not with Tucker. The problem is that everyone thinks that she wants to work with Tucker because she campaigned for him so much last week, because MJ's a bad player. But she has a chance here to separate herself from Tucker and say, Rubina is the pro Tucker player. I will be anti Tucker for you. I will call him out. I will go against him. That's I think her only shot. Will she do that? Probably not, but there's a chance. Will people think of it for her? Also possible. I do think there's potentially some play here between the two of them. But then there's also the idea that players like T-Core and Chemo may want to prepare for the possibility that MJ wins the AI Arena and it's Cedric versus Rubina. Do they just want to concede and give up Rubina in that spot? Or would they actually want to work toward keeping Rubina and flipping the entire game on its head and taking out Cedric? When I say that out loud and I say that it relies on T-Core and Chemo, it sounds ridiculous, but theoretically it's possible. So those are the intriguing parts of the week remaining in these next 4 days, really. There's still plenty of time, tons of time for things to change, which is why I think there is still a decent amount of play here. But that's about what we've got. Let me know if you have any questions in the chat. We'll answer a couple of questions before we wrap up on this solo update. Where, listen, I just watch. That's what I do. Michelle asks, if T-Core and Chemo vote out Rubina over Cedric, how will Tucker respond? I think the play there is they just say, we don't have the numbers, because they won't. The issue is that, like, other people might feel differently. So, like, theoretically, if 5 points, if it's Tucker, T-Core, Chemo, Angela, then yeah, I mean, if everyone else is a vote against Rubina versus Cedric, actually no, they would feel like if MJ or Leah, there's a chance. There's a chance that this like exposes them to Tucker. But I think that what they say is that we didn't think we had the votes. I think I say that they did have a conversation yesterday where they talked about how they may give Rubina sympathy votes, or I should say like votes for how things look for optics. That if Rubina is on the block against Cedric, they will still maybe vote to keep Rubina, even though they didn't actually work to get those votes to actually be there. Now, if they do that, there is a chance again that the votes actually could flip. It's not an impossible chance that Cedric is actually in some trouble here, because it is not that hard, I think, to flip the votes on Cedric if they actually pushed for it. It's just a matter of will they actually push for it. So it's a good question, and I'm not sure how Tucker will respond. Honestly, if I knew what would happen, I still wouldn't know how Tucker would respond. Would Quinn actually ever put Leah up if T-Core and Chemo exposed her? Absolutely, I think so. He already had such a weird vibe from their conversation. If he knew that she exposed their final two, that she said he gives her the ick, like I absolutely think that he was totally prepped to hear that information and potentially do something about it. He doesn't want to put Rubina on the block. He actively doesn't want to do it. And so if he had been given another option, especially one that made sense like that, I think he would have taken it. Especially if they said, "Listen, we really feel strongly about this. We can't risk losing Rubina." Losing Leah as an option is a way better space to be in. I do. I think that he would have done it. Is there any scenario where Tucker could stay on the block and not leave next week? There's always a chance. Who's better positioned between Chelsea and Brooklyn? Well, you'll have to tune in tonight because tonight is the Roundtable podcast where we will be rating the players from 1 to 10 based on how well we think they're doing in the game. In the Stock Watch, tune in tonight. I'll be releasing the survey. You can vote yourself. You can answer that question yourself, rate the players, and tonight we'll go over all of it. It's going to be tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern because tomorrow night there is an episode. Normally it would be on Tuesdays. Do I think the wall is this week? It's definitely possible. I really do. Can Angela win HOH next week? I don't think so, but I'm still not sure. Do I think Tucker makes the challenge 41? If he wants it, I think he's got it. Who are the favorites on the wall? Well, Tucker thinks that it's guaranteed him. And given how they've typically structured the wall comp, it's definitely not impossible. But you never actually know. Like wall can be a little tricky. There's basically like they're going to be people who are contenders. They're going to be people who definitely won't win. And I think there are a few contenders, and I would not say it's guaranteed for Tucker in the way that he seems to think it is. Who does Leah vote out between Cedric and Rubina? I think she will go with the house. But as of right now, there's like not a lot of discussion about it. Rubina's not even on the block yet. I think that the house will be going to keep Cedric, and therefore she likely will as well, unless somebody actively mounts a counter campaign other than just Tucker. And in that case, I do think she'd be perfectly willing to vote out Cedric. Not that she, I will say her inclination would be to vote out Rubina anyway. She's not a fan of Rubina. And it doesn't help that like she has a crush on Tucker and, there's a whole thing going on there. So I think she'd be willing to keep Rubina, but I think she'd be inclined to evict her. And I think the house will be pushing that way anyway. What is Quinn's best case scenario if Tucker uses the veto on himself? Honestly, it would have been nominating Leah instead of Rubina. If he doesn't plan to take Rubina out, it should be Leah. Quite frankly, he should want Rubina out, given that Rubina is so closely tied to Tucker, and Tucker is just such a problem. But if he doesn't plan to take Rubina out, Leah is definitely the next best option. It's just kind of a bad HOH train for him overall. He's not really getting anything good out of this. Why does T-Core want to keep Cedric right now? I mean, she wants to keep Cedric because she has a good relationship with him. She would prefer to keep Rubina, but she just doesn't think that they have the push to keep Cedric or to keep Rubina over Cedric at this moment. But yes, I agree. She knows the Pentagon. She should know the Pentagon is a problem, but I don't know that she does. I think part of it is that like the way Quinn describes the Pentagon is like, oh well, obviously it's like a fake thing because we know we're on the bottom of it. But they haven't really heard just how loyal. Like he's been trying to tell them they're like pretty loyal about this. Um, if Rubina cranks the feminine wiles again, is there any chance Tucker swings back to a crazy video? I don't think this is what I'm saying. I don't think it can be through Rubina. I think that it has to be the other way around. I think that it has to be taunted into it in the manly way. Who will eventually spill about Leah? At this point, I feel like Leah is the most likely to spill about Leah. I don't understand why and nobody is telling anybody telling Quinn about Leah. Is there a world where Brooklyn pushes for Leah to go up? No, I don't think so. I don't think that she really cares to do that. She's in a fine spot regardless, and she doesn't need to stick her neck out. Who do I think the favorites for the wall would be? Let's look at the list here. You can't count out Cam because you just never know. Obviously, Cedric. I would say Chelsea's in there with a chance. Joseph, probably not, but not impossible. Chemo, probably not. Leah could have a chance. MJ might be too tall, but who knows? Quinn obviously would have a chance. Rubina, I think, would have a chance. Honestly, I think a lot of people here would have a shot at the wall. It's a pretty wall friendly cast, I think, overall. How can Quinn possibly think he can trust Lee after that awkward conversation? I think that he feels like the relationship is deteriorated, but that he can get back in with her later. What he doesn't realize is that it's kind of personal. Does MJ know about Leah Trash and Quinn? Yeah. Why is Chelsea not using MJ to her benefit? I think she just doesn't like her, to be honest. I think she doesn't think she needs her, and she just doesn't like her and would prefer to not. But yeah, I agree. It's a little frustrating. Do we know anything about the new twists? No. No, not at the moment. Or at least I don't. Will Tucker get mad at Angela for talking bad about Rubina? The Tucker Angela relationship, I would say, is probably very fragile. I would say it's probably very fragile because they both have theories about things often. All right. Anything else? I think that's basically it here for questions. But that is listen, that's what we've got. I do think there's plenty of room for intrigue for the rest of the week. I think that we will hopefully see. I really feel like if Rubina is on the block, there's some chance for things to shift, or maybe it's just chance for me to be frustrated that things aren't shifting more. But that's what we have for you today. Again, later tonight, roundtable podcast should be a fun time. The slop is also going to be on today. If you're a patron, you can listen to the slop. That's I don't know if this is like ever properly explained, but basically what the slop is, it's like the drama podcast for Big Brother, where they go over all of the things that are happening on social media and all of the like all of that stuff that they prefer go behind the paywall of being a patron. So if you like that stuff, perhaps consider being a patron, tuning into the slop. So check that out. And then again, tonight, the roundtable. Fill out the survey if you want to rate the players yourself, as well as give some other opinions on the week and the season. And then I'll be back tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. Eastern, to update you on everything that happens today on the Big Brother 26 live feeds, including the veto ceremony. If Tucker actually goes ahead and goes through with it to use the veto on himself. I did. Yes. I also I forgot that probably not super important, but Tucker did let people know last night that he's friends with Cody California. He didn't say California, of course. That's just my joke. last season. But kind of funny. Kind of funny. We'll see if it matters. But tune in tomorrow morning. Tomorrow night, special episode, special recap of the recap. Those tend to be pretty fun podcasts. So tune in tomorrow night, and then we'll keep it running all week long. Really, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday episodes all week long. I'll be on Twitch watching them. It's gonna be really fun to hang out on Twitch and watch these episodes with me. That's it. That's the solo update. Thank you all so much for joining me here today, and I will see all of you next time.